I'm going to be doing the autopsy of modern day marketing business because I think it's absolutely dead. And I think it died of suicide. Marketers are their own worst enemies, right? Did you know that the average person, like a Hermosi, when he goes out to buy media, he's buying it for 75% less than the average person is? Because if you're a known entity, I have channel stopping power. I think this one's going to be very different in that there are going to be a lot of tools distributed. People are going to be leaving with things, not just the ideas of how to do something, but the tools to do it with. You can tell somebody how to build a house, but if they don't have a hammer and a saw, they're going to have a hard time. And if they don't have the tools, guess what? We're going to show them how to build the damn tools. And then along came this thing called TikTok. And TikTok changed the entire game. So what's happened now is all the platforms, your followers really don't matter anymore. You can start a brand new account on Instagram and potentially get 1 million views to a video tomorrow night. I wanted people to realize that this is not a matter of, well, I could be more successful if I had that. It's not that. It's a matter of you will be extinct if you don't have it. You will literally be extinct. You will be wiped out.
So today, you guys are going to meet one of my absolute greatest mentors that I've had the pleasure to be under for the last like 6 years. He's been the person that's helped accelerate my growth and give me all the business advice. He's helped me build businesses. And honestly, it's such a pleasure to have him on here. He's an incredibly busy person. So the fact that I got him even for like 30 minutes, I am incredibly grateful. But today, we're not only going to share like about how cool he is and all the things he's going to tell you about today, but we're also going to tell you about an event that is going to be happening that's going to literally be an event that I guarantee you will absolutely change your life, especially anybody that's trying to make it in their business, that's trying to learn about AI, and that's really trying to grow. And I'm actually super excited not only to tell you about the event, letting you know that I'm going to be there and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be doing at the event and why you should come. And more importantly, what I'm going to be giving away with Stare. But then I'm also going to have Harry talk about it and all the things that are actually going to happen. This is absolutely going to be blowing your mind about understanding how cool this event's going to be. So it's something you're definitely going to want to watch at the end. We're going to actually have the link to the event right here at the bottom. So make sure you get your ticket because tickets are selling out and so is the hotel. So please make sure that as soon as you see this video, jump on this opportunity because it's something you're not going to miss. But without further ado, I am so incredibly honored and excited to introduce my mentor, Harry Belcher. This is somebody who's been in the marketing space for many years.
Since Jesus was a
I'm trying to
baby,
be
I
nice.
always say.
I
You're
didn't want
trying
to
to be
age you
nice.
there.
He's a marketing legend.
But
Get
he is
get
literally
get
labeled
get
the
in
godfather of marketing. Like this is
get in
literally a
while
title that is
get
like
while the
swimming around
getting is
right now.
good. He might kick the bucket any minute. You never know.
And it's good that I'm getting this video now before something happens. So,
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, people know who you are. Again, titled the grandfather of marketing, but more importantly,
The
you've been
grandfather.
incredible.
Oh, now I'm the grandfather of
Oh,
marketing.
that's what
Screw
it
you,
says. That's
dude.
the title that's
You
floated
spit
around the
that out.
internet.
Yeah, it's supposed to. Yeah, whatever. Okay. All right. This is going downhill quick. I think I'm out here. I got something else I need to
You
go
might not
do.
ever come back. But Barry, a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about. One, kind of wanted to grab your knowledge. And again, thank you for being on. But man, marketing world is really changing. I think it's taken a massive pivot in the last 2 years. And I always like to start this channel with some massive advice that people can hear of like, what do they got to do right now to stay alive in the market? And then what do they have to do to like adapt to what's coming? Because there's the right now and then there's what's coming. And I think you've seen it all in different like kind of aspects and all the different businesses that you run. What are those 2 things, and can you help us answer that?
Yeah, I used to have a shirt that said, honestly, I had a shirt that said, "Don't tell my mom I'm a marketer. She still thinks I'm a piano player in a whorehouse." I think that, and I'm going to be delivering a talk at growth hacking. I hope it doesn't start the day off too lousy, but I'm going to be doing the autopsy of modern day marketing business because I think it's absolutely dead. I think it's dead, and I think it died of suicide, frankly. Marketers are their own worst enemies, right? You hear marketers ruin everything. And we actually ended up ruining our own market. I really believe that to be true. I think that, I joke, I said, not a joke. One of my lessons I always teach people is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think that marketers who learned manipulation tactics, which we've all had, and you can manipulate people for good, you can manipulate people for bad, you can manipulate people for your own gain or for their own good, right? I think many more people have manipulated for their own gain rather than for the good of the person who needs to be pushed over the edge a little bit. We just use so many tactics that have become known, right? If somebody in the marketing space says, "I'm having a webinar tonight," you're not like, "Yay, I'm going to learn something cool." You're, "Wow, what are they going to sell me?" Right? I think that because of that, we've shot ourselves in the foot and we've tried to maximize every dollar out of every transaction. And you kind of sort of had to, because the traffic platforms are expensive, And what a handful of people have figured out, that one of the reasons I wanted to do growth hacking with so many young up and comers, right? The younger generation of us that are, have learned some of these tactics, realize they can dial them back. Knowing how the human brain works and knowing how the caveman brain works and how it functions and what motivates us is a great thing. But there has to be a certain degree of nuance to it, right? But knowing how that works and applying that when there's brand new technology in the market, this is earth shattering, right? Gives you a huge advantage. And we've talked about a lot of our friends like Kenny Kelly and a bunch of the people that are at growth hacking this time that are building these huge social followings and just have the amazing benefit of doing that. They understand they're using some of that psych to attract people on social to build their own brands, their own media, so that they don't necessarily have to have paid media. They're not subject to the Facebooks of the world and the Googles of the world that are going to kill them with ad dollars, but they have an advantage that people don't understand. Did you know that the average person, like a Hermosi, Alex and I have been friends for a long time. You take somebody like Alex, not only is he doing a lot media wise and selling a lot and giving a lot and creating tons of value, when he goes out to buy media, he's buying it for 75% less than the average person is. Because if you're a known entity, if you've got a reputation, like even me, I got a little bit, some people know me. So when I run ads, I'm going to pay less for an ad than somebody who's unknown. You're like, well, how's that? You get a discount from, no, I don't get any discount, but I have channel stopping power. People go, oh, that's Perry. I know Perry. I'm going to stop and listen to what Perry has to say. When unknown person goes by, they just zoom past unknown person. I was working with I worked with Dan Kennedy for a while, and we were having a talk about Gunthy Rinker. This is a really interesting story. And Proactive. Do you remember Proactive?
I do. I do remember Proactive. Yeah.
Yeah. So Proactive. So Dan wrote on Proactive, and I had a bunch of talks with Dan. I don't know if he ever used anything that I gave him on Proactive or not, because I don't want to take any credit for any of that. But he did a great job at writing those Proactive commercials, most of them. They chose incredibly A-list celebrities. They had Jessica Simpson. They had Katy Perry. They had Diddy. Remember Diddy?
Yeah.
That's
Like a sore subject.
yeah, not the greatest celebrity in the world, but he's right up there. Anyway, they had these celebrities on, and one of the fascinating facts was that they sold less. They sold less when they had a celebrity on the show.
Interesting.
So why in the world would they pay so much money, millions and millions of dollars, to have these celebrities on the show? It was because the celebrities gave the show what they called channel stopping power. So if they had 1,000 people on the show and the celebrity was on there, they would sell less than if they had 1,000 people and the celebrity wasn't on there. The celebrity got in the way, right? But they would run the same ad and they get 3,000 people to watch because Jessica Simpson was on there. So even though their conversion rate was less, the channel stopping power was higher. Basically, the cost of their traffic went down by adding celebrity. So when you're building celebrity, the way that like Austin Armstrong is going to teach you guys at growth hacking, all of his automation tools and processes for building celebrity, having gotten a billion or billions of views so far, he's really coming up like a rocket in the space. You don't only get the benefit of that traffic, and you don't only get the benefit of that name recognition, you get cheap traffic. When you do want to take something out to paid media, you have a huge advantage over everyone else. So I think that people that aren't building personal brands, you better get in the services business. You're all going to be working for those people who are building.
Now, would you say that that's like kind of like the influencer marketing that everybody's kind of talking about? This is why we see a lot of the young guys going, girls and guys, right, going into the whole influencing marketing space, because it's kind of where all advertising seems to be going. Is this kind of aligned to that, or is this a little bit different?
It's aligned to it, but I think I think social's been a bit misunderstood. And there's a giant change in the social landscape now, right? I got into social with Twitter, right? I had 112,000 Twitter followers in 2008, right? In Austin, Texas. I was the number one Twitter account in the state of Texas. Gary Vaynerchuk, who's Gary, I've known Gary for since then. Gary used to message me to ask me to share his posts to get reach. So that's how long I've been doing this. But back then, and for a really long time, this was all about how many followers do you have, right? How many followers do you have? And then the next innovation was YouTube. It's going to be about videos and how many followers you have. And the next innovation was Instagram, and it's all about pictures and how many followers do you have. And then along came this thing called TikTok. And TikTok changed the entire game And it had far less to do with followers. So what's happened now is all the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, your followers really don't matter anymore. You can start a brand new account on Instagram and potentially get 1 million views to a video tomorrow night, your first video you put out, because it's more about filling the stream. And it has a lot to do with inventory. When someone's talking about a subject, when a subject's really hot, right? Like our survival stuff, we have a survival business, and we have videos and posts about surviving a flood, right? For instance. Well, those posts might sit and get no action at all. And then all of a sudden there's a big flood somewhere and everybody's talking about floods, and that those algorithms are feeding you more of what you're already interested in. So those older videos that we have will all of a sudden surge, or those older posts will surge, because the platforms are now going looking for inventory to fill that vacuum. So like, for instance, when you're talking about, I see you all the time in YouTube, right? When you're talking about N8N, and if N8N does a big release tomorrow of some big update, chances
Oh,
are your videos are going to spike, right?
absolutely. They
Because
always do. Yeah. Same
yeah,
thing with
because you're
DHL. Yeah.
yeah, because you're filling a vortex or a vacuum in that space. So what the really good content creators are doing right now, a lot of them, they're watching the news, they're watching the trends, they're watching what somebody's talking about in a particular day, and they're not going out and saying, "Okay, today I guess I'll talk about tacos because I had tacos on the schedule to talk about today." But if there's a hamburger outbreak, you know, they pivot and they start talking about hamburgers because they know that they're going to ride the wave of the algo, right? So you get this huge advantage that nobody is prepared for. The problem is, and this is one of the things I think you're on the edge of right now. I know Austin is definitely on the edge of, Kenya's on the edge of, all these guys are on the edge of, that we know, is using these automation tools to sniff out those trends and to create scripts and hooks and things with automation tools really, really, really fast, so that you can be first on air. Because honestly, what the platforms would prefer, like I may have content about floods at Survival Life, right? And they'll eventually get to it, but they would prefer new content about floods. So they're going down the stack. So that a flood hits, right? Or there's a shooting. There was unfortunately, another mass shooting a couple of days ago. And anytime that happens, we own the American Gun Association. So we get a bunch of gun related stuff, right? They would prefer new content. So they'll find my old content and serve more of it because they just run out of inventory for that subject. But if I give them brand new stuff and your channel is known as an authority in that stuff, it's no different than that everything's the benefit of being old. There aren't hardly any, by the way. I don't recommend it. It beats the alternative, but it only barely, right? But the benefit of being old is you kind of understand how other industries work. When the Exxon Valdez crashed and started leaking oil, all of a sudden every geologist in America's phone started ringing because CNN needed somebody and Fox needed somebody and NBC needed somebody and CBS needed somebody. And they all keep these rolodexes of subject matter experts, right? Well, that's what they're doing. That's what these algorithms are doing now. They're keeping a digital file of who is our go-to person on oil spills, who is our go-to person on N8N, who is our go-to person on whatever the case may be when a trend arises.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a really wild story. So you know Matt Wolf. Matt Wolf, for anybody
Yeah,
that doesn't
sure.
know, huge fan of him. He had an AI channel that had, I think, 46,000 subscribers. And ChatGPT hit, and his growth from 46,000 to 758,000 followers inside of YouTube was in a 1 year time span, because
Yeah,
he was on the subject before anybody was. The second GTP hits and all the AI hit, he just took off
yeah,
like crazy. So just
yeah.
kind of backing into that story that you're saying right now.
Yeah, and if you understand, so a lot of the stuff that's happening in marketing, a lot of the marketing industry is reverting back to the way that it was 50 years ago, if you can believe that. Like I think you're going to see marketing agencies largely go away in traditional form. People that call themselves agencies really aren't agencies. They're done for you services, right? And that's fine. Done for you service is a great business, by the way. If you're not going to be an influencer, if you're not comfortable with being out front, learn to run a services business. If you don't want to be the general contractor, be a carpenter, an electrician, a plumber, you're going to make a lot of money because the influencers are dependent upon people to run their businesses and to do these things. So there's a lot of money to be made in that space. But the term agency has really been hoarded out because, if you, what city you live in?
New Jersey, like up in Clinton.
Okay. Well, let's take Atlantic City, right? So there were probably in Atlantic City 50 years ago, 50 companies who used an advertising agency, right? And then you had 5,000 companies that didn't, right? Because they were just serving the market that came along and they got just enough to get by and they had a business and yada, yada, yada. And some of those people emerged and did well. And they would go to an advertising agency that would come up with messaging, come up with creative. And then believe it or not, most advertising agencies don't do anything else. They go out to a media buyer in the advertising agency world, in the real advertising agency world, buys media. They don't come up with creative. They're handed creative. They're handed a budget. They're handed creative, and they're handed a demand of how many eyeballs they want to hit, the cum, they call it the CUM, the cumulative audience that they want to hit with that message. And they have 100 media points, 1,000 media points, 10,000 media points. 100 media points means everybody in your market area has seen your message one time. 1,000 media points, they've seen it 10 times. 10,000 media points, they've seen it 100 times, right? So political campaigns buy 10,000 cum all the time. That's the reason they spend so much money in a very short period of time. They want that candidate to be seen 100 times by everybody. The point is, I think you're going to go back to that because,
At some point in time, yeah.
because the problem with all these agencies are they're actually services and there's no creative, right? There's going to be a lot of value in minds like Don Draper's, right? In the show, if you watch Mad Men, there's going to be a lot of value. There still is. That never went away. If you go to New York, Madison Avenue, it's thriving, right?
Oh,
That
absolutely. Yeah. I was just there
that
the other
never,
day.
yeah, never went away. It's thriving, but it's going to be thriving even more because the problem with all these media buying agencies is, well, let's go buy your media. Well, they don't have any creative. They don't have good product developers. They don't have, the advertising agencies used to help you create the name of the thing, and it used to help you create the packaging. There are naming agencies. People don't know that. New York City, there's naming agencies. All they do is name stuff, right? For millions of dollars. There's a lady, Alexandria Watkins. I love her book. It's called Hello, My Name is Awesome. She owns a naming agency. People just send her shit and go, what should we name this? And she has very scientific methods of figuring that out. And, if they named the Swiffer the buffer, it might not have worked, right? The Swiffer was the thing, so there are all these names of products and names of services. So I think you're going to see influencers in one spot. And I think the general influencer, I'm cute and I have a YouTube channel, I'm cute and I have an Instagram channel, is going to be far less effective. But you're going to see real subject matter experts being incredibly effective because you've got to think about the value they create. I was very anti-influencer. I'm like, this is a fad. This is stupid shit. Oh, I want to be an influencer. Oh, that's just adorable. Why don't you get a real job? The truth is, though, when people are faced with 1,000 choices, they need somebody to tell them which one to pick because we hate making decisions as a people. We absolutely hate it. Decision fatigue is a thing. So we will.
Yeah,
You
it's a
want to
real
hear?
thing. I
Oh,
never give credit to that either, and then all of a sudden, like, I see it on a daily basis. People just don't even
every
they
day.
just decide for me, I'm like,
Have you ever? I used to own part of a company that was in the astrology space many years ago, the biggest one in the world. Actually, we owned a good percentage of it, and they did like an automated astrology reading thing with technology and all that. It was like 40, $50. But there was no money in that. The money was in selling the leads to the Miss Cleos of the world, right? How much money do you think the average person, if they make 3 calls to an online psychic, how much money do you think they spend in a year?
"Oh, man, I can't even guess this one." I don't know, a couple, like, let's say 20, 30,000.
No, the caller, the person who calls the psychic,
Oh god, probably not. I don't know, like, maybe 5. Yeah, like, not a lot.
they'll spend about $3,000 to $6,000 a year calling that psychic.
Wow.
I'm at the grocery store and I don't know whether to buy the should I buy the Cheerios or the
That's
Frosted
insanity.
Flakes? And the guy on the other end or the gal on the other end says definitely the Frosted Flakes. Oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. 3.99 a minute, right? That's seriously, they use it
That's
as a crutch
insane.
because they do not want to make a decision. And people don't like making decisions because it's taxing on the brain. And plus, there's an insurance policy there too, because they want somebody to blame if there was a bad decision. you know, so I think you're going to see influencers be real influencers they do deliver a lot of value. If I call you up, I know people, you work with a lot of our people, and they're like, hey, what tech should I use for this? Or what? Hell, that's valuable as hell. You got
every day.
you got 1,000 choices, and you're the guy that's went out there, and we're in the same business, dude. I research business models. I test said business models and approaches. I don't, the ones that don't work out, you never hear about. And every now and then I'll figure out a crack in the universe where somebody can go make a disproportionate amount of money. And then I go teach that. I teach that to my group of folks, right? At Ignite or Driven or whatever. And my job is to be a researcher and a tester and then to pass that on. So I'm in my own way, I call myself an ugly influencer. I'm an ugly influencer. I don't twerk, but
I
but
don't.
I can tell you, I'd tell you, I'd make a couple bucks. I think there's going to be huge value in that moving forward and getting a large degree of exposure. I think one of the big problems is getting a large degree of exposure and not having anything to say is an incredible waste of time.
Yeah, agreed. And like, so that really kind of like makes us look at like kind of where we are and like the space that we're living now. Now, when we start talking about like future sake and what people need to jump on, and like, why did you even come up with Grow Hacking Live? Because I think your goal was to really educate people of like not only what's here now, but also what's coming and how you need to be ready. Because if not, you and I just had this conversation before. I don't think agencies are going to survive. I don't think marketing as we know now is going to survive. I don't think businesses are going to survive if they don't adapt. But again, to your point, there's so many choices. Like the guidance is kind of all over the place. Like, why did you come up with Growth Hacking Live? What is the big pivot that you see in that? Because I know you and I talked, and I know that's the reason why you did it, because you wanted to get out there before everybody else and goes, guys, this is like what's out there. This is the path you need to follow. Like, what is that pivot? How does Growth Hacking Live kind of come into it? And what should be people like be listening for, wanting to hear, and really looking into at the moment we're in now?
That's a good question. It's a really weird time because you've got the convergence of so much new technology that it's either not adopted at all or over adopted. And I think that, point one is it's here. It ain't coming, it's here, right? And we have another freight train called humanoid robotics that's the lights right around the corner, right? So, this is the biggest. You got two GPTs. I call them general purpose technologies. There have only been, depending on who you argue with, 6 general purpose technologies ever in history. The first one was kind of big. It was fire, and then there was the wheel, and then there was the engine, the steam engine, industrial age, and then there was telecommunication, the invention of the telephone, the telegraph, the wire, and all that stuff, and then eventually computers, the internet, and now AI. Right. So a general purpose technology, if you look it up, a GPT, which is not what ChatGPT means, by the way, but it should, because a general purpose technology means a technology that affects every human on Earth. Right. So we have this technology that is emerging, but also maturing, right? At the same time, it's entering a stage of some degree of maturity, right? And some degree, pretty heavy degree of adoption, especially amongst large corporations are spending billions and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in an arms race to see who can get automated the quickest. I think that number one, I wanted people to realize that this is not a matter of, well, I could be more successful if I had that. It's not that. It's a matter of you will be extinct if you don't have it. You will literally be extinct. You will be wiped out. Because like when I was talking to you earlier about, you said you were doing this big project when you were on the treadmill at the gym today, and you're talking into your phone. And by the time you got home, the whole project was done by automation services. And you can't compete with that. It's an impossibility to compete. So I've got friends in business that some of them have been in business so long they don't know how to do anything else. And by God, they're going to get wiped out. They're going to get annihilated by a tidal wave of technology if they don't get their shit together. Now, that being said, I think there's, say marketers screw up everything, right? So marketers have used so many psychological manipulation tricks and hidden things and whatever. You can't trick all the people all the time, right? And the first talk I'm doing at Growth Hacking is about the autopsy of marketing. It's dead. Here's when it died, and here's what it died of, right? So what's going to take its place? Because the same amount of money is going to flow. Money flows. It doesn't matter what happens. Money always flows. The money supply rarely is ever depleted by more than 5% plus or minus at any given time. So money's flowing. It's just flowing to different places. So it's going to flow a lot to the most efficient, right? The most efficient and the most powerful. And if you can have 1 million digital robots working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Bob's Big Burgers can't compete with that. I just saw the other day that I'll get to a point of personality in a second. I just saw the other day I talk to my people all the time. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do business wise, and they're always worried about, well, I don't know if I should do this or that. So, man, can you make a pretty good ham sandwich? Because Jimmy John's just sold for $8 billion.
Wow.
They make a pretty good ham sandwich. But you know how they describe themselves? They're a technology company that sells food. They sell sandwiches. Crumble Cookie is a technology company that sells cookies. Crumble Cookie sells 40% of all of its cookies over its app. And they do
Wow.
$1.3 million per store per year, compared to the average cookie store does 200 grand. So
Wow.
they're,
Holy smokes.
yeah, because these technology enablement is a part of every business. Again, another great opportunity. If you don't want to be on the front lines, go help people enable technology into their businesses. Nuno and I own businesses that do that. And let me tell you, businesses are booming. People need it desperately, but there's also a point of over efficiency. You're going to see a lot of people become very, very, very frustrated with their inability to have any human connection at all. And I think one of the big mistakes, I think you automate all the way up to the point of the sale, and then you get really human after the sale. And I think that's learning how to play both sides of that card, to where you can be super efficient up to make the sale and then be superhuman after the sale to keep and maintain the customer relationship. Because the thing is, if you're a pure technology company, maybe you got the greatest widget in the world, but probably not. There's going to be another guy building a better widget than you down the street. So the only thing that's going to maintain clients, especially for our size businesses, are human relationships. So I think you can over automate. There are a lot of businesses right now that are over automated and incredibly frustrating. If you go to the doctor's office right now in Austin, Texas, there's practically no one at the front desk of the doctor's office. You walk in, they hand you an iPad. You have to navigate that technology. And I went to the doctor the other day and they gave me the iPad, and I'm in the tech space, right? And I was struggling with this thing. And I look over, and these 70 and 80-year-old, folks there, man, they're lost as an Easter egg. So I think the over automation can be a problem. So I think people are going to have to learn when to automate, when to have a helping hand, when to be personal. I mean, it's weird because the challenge is so much, and this is the challenge and the opportunity. I think so many companies have gotten so big, they can't answer the phone. They can't answer a live chat, right? They can't do any of those things. You look at the Amazons of the world running more than half of e-commerce, doing, 1 million transactions a minute or something like that. There's not going to be a live chat with them. There's not going to be a phone call with them. It's just not going to happen. It's not reasonable. But there's going to be a certain degree of customer willing to pay more for a different experience
Yep.
that has a certain degree of human element to it. And that those brands are going to be driven by personalities. And you're seeing it online. You're seeing like Allbirds, or you're seeing a brand like Allbirds that nobody ever heard of selling sneakers in that sneaker space. The sneaker space is a multi-billion-dollar throat cut, I'm going to kill you business. And using influencers and social media, Allbirds can sell $120 sneakers that cost $6 to make, but you've got to get crafty, right? But you still have to be automated, because if you can't automate a bunch of your processes, you won't be efficient enough to compete. So I think this call is going to make a handful of people want to go to growth hacking, and a bunch of people want to go get a job working for the government, because it's kind of a zero sum game. I always tell everybody, you got to be crazy to go into business, right? You got to be crazy. You have to be obsessed. You can't be half-ass. I don't believe in the side hustle thing. I think the side hustle thing's horseshit. I don't believe in cause-based marketing. I think that's horseshit. I believe that when you decide you're going to go into business, you got to go in all in, or you're going to lose whatever money you're going to put in. And you got to realize you're stepping out on a battlefield. Business is war. And especially if you're a small to medium-sized business or a startup business, and you're going up against a Goliath that is the 800-pound gorilla in your space, dude, if they notice you, right, they're going to do their best to kill you, right? They're going to do their best to destroy you. Corporations are interesting. I watched a show the other day talking about, in the United States, a corporation is considered a human.
No, I did not. No, and considering I worked for them for years, no, I did not.
No, they are a person.
That's
They
insane.
are, but it's pretty funny because one of the big opponents to that says, well, if they're a person that can't be incarcerated, right? You can't put a corporation in prison. They don't have a conscience. They don't have a soul, and they can only be penalized financially. So these corporations, they care about their oxygen is profit. Their oxygen is stockholder value. Their oxygen is greed. I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong about that. I'm not making a statement of good, bad, or indifferent, but you are going up against a cyborg. You're going up against Terminator. Terminator has no emotions. Terminator can't care about you or your family or anyone else. So I think that if your business is going to survive, it's going to have to be almost as efficient as a corporation, but have a real human touch to it.
Yeah, so how do you do that? How do you do that as, like, a small corporation? Like, what are you
That's the
seeing,
benefit
like?
of being small. I mean, you can be a $10 million business and still know most of your customers. I know most of my customers. My business now, I've had a lot of businesses, 30 million, 25, $30 million, about as big as I get. But I've had 5 of them that were in the 20s. I've had 11 over 10 million. I always knew a lot of my customers. If you look at my businesses now, you've been around 8, 9 and driven all this. Man, I know all these people. I know them all. I have a personal connection with them. And it might be for 2 minutes at a time, but for that 2 minutes, that person has 2 minutes of my undivided attention. Now, I used marketing automation tools and video sales letters and webinars and workshops and all sorts of things to get those people into my world, right? But once they're in my world, they're part of my family. And that's the advantage that you have as a small business. You have the advantage of you. And like one of the challenges I see with people, they're like, well, I don't want to be on camera and I don't want anybody to know who I am. And I don't want to, dude, you better, I don't want anybody to not know who I am and what I do. Because anymore, it's me or Corporation Z, right? And I'm hoping that you just have to be a little bit better than a faceless, nameless, soulless corporation. That was probably wasn't a very clear answer,
No, I think
but
it's
I real
clear. I think it's, so is this kind of recapping a lot of the things, right? So if you're not adapting to what's currently going on now and you're trying to live under a rock, you're really not gonna make it far, and you are eventually going to, like, not be existent in this space. Second thing I'm completely getting is, like, hey, there comes a point in time where you just have to start getting in front of things and start modifying with the market to just stay on top of whatever it is so you can survive. And I think you're kind of hinting on where we're going to go next is because you small, you have agility. So you are able
right.
to pivot and do a lot of things and still have that natural
Oh, you can
human
move super quickly.
yeah,
From corporate. Well, like for instance, I did a workshop last week on vibe coding, and we had 500 people in that workshop. I mean, with between you, me, and the fence post, you know how much we spent in marketing?
yeah,
18 grand. 18 grand to sell $100,000 worth of tickets, right? Which is just insanity from a ROI standpoint. But if I were Corporation C, we would have meetings scheduled out for the next 4 months
just to get an answer.
just to get an answer.
Yeah.
So the small business has this huge agility. You hit it on the nail. That's a huge advantage is agility, personality, likability. I always find it fascinating. Like you see Elon Musk all over social, right? And they talk about how Elon is almost 100% signal, almost no noise. Steve Jobs was 80% signal, 20% noise. In other words, he just didn't let things that, they say Elon will walk away in the middle of a conversation if there's nothing in it for him. Right. If it's not on the topic that he wants to know about that moment, he'll just awkwardly walk away from a conversation. And Jobs was the same way because they're focused on a goal. They've got on blinders. But it's funny. You see him all over social, and everybody knows every aspect of Steve Jobs' life. They know about his relationship with his daughter. You know about Elon's parents, and where he grew up, and all these things. Do you think that's coincidence? No.
Absolutely not. Yeah. It's being played on.
No, it's because they're spending a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of attention to spread those messages because they want you to have that connection to Elon so that you'll go buy stock in his companies or support his products and buy his products. And the same was true with Steve Jobs. The same is true with Bill Gates. All these people that are the corporations that are faceless, that you don't know who run them, they become commoditized corporations. They grow 4% a year, and that's what happens, right? If you're going to have a dynamically growing company, even the big corporations have figured out. If you're going to have a dynamically growing company that's growing 20, 30, 40% a year, you better have a face out there. Look at NVIDIA. Do you think that guy's selling $8 billion? I saw the other day, $8 billion order for NVIDIA chips.
That's insane.
Right.
Insane. It's
But Jensen
absolutely
is still out there in his little bolero jacket, doing his talks.
Yeah,
Dude,
today I literally saw a short from him signing some kind of gift where he's like handing a robot his new brain and the robot is opening up a package. I literally saw that minutes before you and I are talking.
dude, you give me $8 billion, you're never going to see my fat ass again. You know, but they know they have to. He's going to have a much better chance of not just selling product, but you got to think about they're playing a different game, right? Not just selling product, you're buying a share in him. You're buying a share in that guy when you're buying a share of Nvidia stock. You're buying a share in Elon Musk when you're buying Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, whatever you're buying stock in. You're buying a share in the dream that was Steve Jobs when you bought Apple, and it makes them have unstoppable amounts of cash flow because you're betting on the person. Any good investor, I do some angel investing with Kamal Ravikant, who's a great friend of mine, and I invest in his funds, and he invests money in various Silicon Valley angel projects for me. Great guy, great return, by the way. But they're always betting on the jockey. They're never betting on the horse.
Like the person
So you
behind like the actual idea and everything else. Interesting.
1,000% of the time. They're always betting on the jockey. They're never betting on the horse. The business model is irrelevant. If you've got a track record of having done something remarkable in the past, even if the thing you did that was remarkable failed, they will bet on you again because you did something remarkable. And nobody wants to miss the opportunity of finding the next Jensen or the next Elon or the next Steve Jobs. So they're going to bet on them. If I wanted to go raise money, I could pretty easily raise money. I just never want to be responsible for anybody else's investor money. I always use my own. But if I
Yeah.
wanted to raise money, I could because there's enough people that like me, know me, and trust me that they would probably write checks to invest in whatever I wanted to invest in. And that's important. If I had a regret in life, it's not being a good money raiser. I could have made a lot more money in my life had I been willing to raise money from other people, but I just never wanted to be responsible for somebody else's money. So I didn't ever want to do
You
that.
never went down that path, but it's funny you're saying something that kind of is the next segue that I want to really get into is so betting on trendsetters and betting on the individuals. Like again, I love that betting on the jockey, not the horse, right? So growth hacking live to me is like kind of that stage that I think you're setting up, right? I mean, I kind of like gotten to know you a little bit. Like, here's one thing that I can tell you about Perry. Perry sees the future like a little faster than we do because he's experienced so much and there's so much wisdom there. And again, because of all the multitude of businesses and the different types of businesses, everything from manufacturing to marketing to masterminds and all this other stuff. So you have this crazy, like, I don't even know, like a 3D perception of
A
like the
mile
world.
wide and a mile wide and an inch deep, I call
Yeah, exactly. Well, but
it.
that's
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, I don't think I know anybody that does as wide of a view as that. So when Perry speaks, I like tune in and listen. But I think in like understanding the trendsetters and the jockeys, tell me about growth hacking live because I think that that's if I know you, I think that's the setup you're looking for. I think you're looking at the trendsetters, the people that are making a mark in the marketing world. And I honestly seeing the lineup, I'm like, wow, those are all the people that are booming right now. Those are all the people that are like setting records and creating these like I don't even know how to describe it. These like trends, you know what I'm saying? Like you mentioned already Austin Armstrong. You mentioned a couple of other heavy hitters that are going to be at this thing. But why growth hacking live? What's your bet there? And like, is it what I'm thinking? Is it that you are trying to bring the trendsetters forward, the jockeys that you are like envisioning because you have that 3D vision, right? That 3D power vision. Are these the people that we're watching? Are these the people that we're following?
My own selfish reason, right? I definitely have a selfish reason. I'm not that kumbaya, right? They joke around and call me Uncle Perry. I'm like your old dirty uncle, right? Or whatever. But I want people to do well and I care about people. I care about the people I work with. But I usually always have an agenda, right? As we all do, if we're honest. And this gives me the opportunity to bring together the people that I want to work with, the people that I need to know. The worst thing in the world you can do as you get more mature is to isolate yourself, right? Because I'm so smart. I've learned these things and I'm just, I'm super smarter than everybody else. So now I'm going to isolate myself and I'm going to go do my thing. And that's the way that most business owners, most people that have done well, a lot of people tap out at the end of the day because they're not hanging out with another generation of people, but people like Qasim that you and I are in business with, such a brilliant guy with incredible
Love
amount of energy and just an enthusiasm for just diving head deep in the deepest end of the pool when he sees what's working, or Jason Fladlin, who's just incredible at figuring out the human element to make any product more sellable. We've got guys like David Meltzer, who's a little bit older, closer to our age, but came up through the sports world as head of the Napoleon Hill Institute. Dan Fleischman's got 10,000 or so influencers in an agency, and Austin Armstrong and Adley Kinsman. That's just, everybody sees Adley everywhere. She's beautiful, but really understands, organic amplification probably beyond anybody. Laura Rahib, that's like the ecom ninja. That's just, these people have their specialties. Eric Taz, nobody ever heard of. I love these people that nobody's ever heard of. Eric Taz is running a $500 million business in the basically specialized drop shipping space. $500 million, and he's 32, maybe. Kenya Kelly, that's doing millions of dollars on TikTok, and Michael Goff, that's like does communications, advanced communications better than anybody. Mitch Burnham's traffic guy that is way ahead of the game using automation tools to buy media and analyzing that media and optimizing it minute by minute with optimization tools. Mario Castelli's become the greatest, probably.
Amazing. I love Mario.
Yeah, probably the greatest,
Like prompt, right? I think it's
most efficient
manipulating
copywriter in the world right now, because he's
copywriter.
using,
Yeah, like the
yeah,
way he
he's using,
manipulates prompts.
yeah, he's using AI to write not good copy, like insane copy. Dominic Kameny, this, design, using AI for design to be able to not need a super high-end design agency anymore, because you can use these AI tools to do it. Emma Rainville, who's on the ops side, that uses Operator and ChatGPT agents and so many automation tools to operate businesses. On the side of the businesses that we hate, Alicia Little, that just figured out everything there is to do with automation for small businesses. Molly Mahoney, that, is the queen of social media optimization, of attention hijacking. Kevin King, that just kills it in the e-com space, the Amazon space particularly, responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars in Amazon. But all these people have one thing in common. There are a bunch more. I could keep talking, but we've got 50, 60 speakers, from even legal compliance and building giant communities with automation and conversational architecture systems. Ruben Rock running local, down in the local level, running AI in the local level. And Christian Rushman, who gets people's emails delivered to their inboxes by using advanced software technology to analyze every email that goes out, creating different separate messages for every person on your list. Chris Gray, that does local SEO. Martha, that's a great funnel persuasion engineer. All these people, even Ryan Petit from Gordon Reese, our attorney, is coming in to talk about the use of AI and the ethics of it, and what you can do and what you can't do legally. And then there's this dude named Nuno. I don't know what he does. He's just some dude. I think he's the guy that's going to hang out at the bar. I'm not sure. Sean Kelly's going to be there running his live podcast. He's one of the top 50 podcasters in the world. He's going to be running his podcast live and showing people how, with technology, he can do up to, I think it's 30 podcasts a day.
Wow.
Right. And he's just become insane doing this because he uses technology. Kristen Carcinone produces, half of the multi-million-dollar VSLs that are in the market at a given time. Or John Moran, who's a super Google Ads performance person, and a lot more. There's a bunch of other people that I haven't even, I can't get to all of them, but I'm telling you, I was trying to kind of look over my list there. There's one thing about everybody on that list. They're people that I admire. They're people that I look up to. They're people that, when I want to know, you'll see me in Facebook every now and then say, who's the greatest person in the world at blank, right? I'm very much a who, not how guy, right? That's how I found you. Who's the
Yeah, that
greatest?
is exactly how you found me. Somebody put,
I went on and typed one day on Facebook, because I got 5,000 people and they follow me around. Or I said now at 20,000 or 30,000. I said, who's the greatest person in the world at GHL automation? And, there were 20 names out there, but out of 100 answers, 70 of them were you. Same thing with Kristen Rushman. I said, who's the greatest person in the world right now at email deliverability? 60 out of 100 people said Kristen Rushman. So these are the people that I've called on when I've ran into trouble. These are the people that I've hired to solve problems for me, if they're hireable, right? Most of them are becoming, damn it, y'all are making too damn much money. You're not hireable anymore. I got to find another round of people coming up now. You guys are making too much fucking money. But yeah, these are all people I look up to and people that I would recommend to anyone else. These are the people, when you call me and say, hey, who's the best person in the world at GoHighLevel? It's Nuno. Call Nuno. Who's the best person in the world at this or that? Call this person. So these are the people that are in my Rolodex that I recommend to my best friends, my mastermind members, my students, and the people that I come in contact with and the people that I hire to do things in my 19 companies. I have 19 companies in my holding right now. So we have our group of folks that no matter which company needs a, whoever needs an N8N, anybody needs an N8N person, they're all going to do. So these are my personal contacts. So many of these people nobody's ever heard of. I mean, there's a handful of people that are social or that have, like Adley and Austin and, Martin, they got millions of viewers, right? Billions of views. And they're the ones everybody's heard of. But you take a guy like Eric Toz, who's just, and I would say this to Eric, kind of a socially awkward, super quiet. Have you met him?
Not yet, not yet,
Yeah.
but now you're getting me excited to meet him.
Kind of a social. Well, he started a company called Shine On, and it's a private label jewelry company. And now he has another company called Beauty Boss, and they're doing private label beauty. So women can go on, not necessarily only women, but anybody can go on and take all of his stock beauty products and create their own line of beauty products without having to invest in inventory. And then they'll curate boxes. So you can start your own beauty box brand and you do it all without making any investment inventory. And these companies are it's zero inventory e-commerce. And he's figured that model out. He's got the technology for it. Shine On became the #1 app on Shopify.
Wow.
So that comes with a bunch of money, and I think he's 32, 33 and very quiet and hard to get out of the house. And, and probably, I'll probably do a fireside chat with him. It's kind of awkward to talk and, but these are the people that I want to show off and share with the rest of the world. Cause I think that they're not going to meet them any other way. They're not going to be hosting webinars and teaching you this or that. These are the people that are doing. These are not necessarily the people that are teaching. I would say that out of everybody that we have, maybe 20% of them publicly teach.
So you're going to
the
get like
rest
firsthand knowledge from some of these people that are like coming up or are doing all
that
these
you'll
things.
likely never meet again. You'll
Yeah.
likely never have the opportunity to hear from ever again.
But a couple of things I want to like touch on, right? So it's a 3-day event, right? We have all these incredible speakers. I mean, literally the lineup is sick. Like I'm actually pretty excited. One, that I'm part of it, and two, that I'm actually going to be attending. Because there's people in there that I want to see.
Well,
Like
the green room is going to be sick, dude.
well, so let's go over that.
The
What is the
speaker green room is going to
I
be
think there's
sick.
some exciting things happening that I think people need to be aware of. So what is actually happening at this event? Other than all these incredible speakers we just talked about, what else is happening at this event?
Well, the speakers will be the speakers, right? As the speakers come off stage, if you're in the VIP, they each go to the VIP room and spend an hour in the VIP room after their talk. So you actually get to go up and VIP is not very expensive, but you get to go up and ask them very pointed questions and deliberate questions. There's a good trade floor. We got a lot of people that are exhibiting there. Some of the top people. GoHighLevel is our primary platinum sponsor, along with the Driven Mastermind. So there's going to be a lot of great people there. But in addition to that, it's a very interactive thing. So there are awards. There's the Nexus Awards. I helped co-found an award for emerging marketing technology called the Nexus Awards. So there's going to be a lot of award nominated technology companies and providers in that space. There's going to be an awards ceremony. My favorite thing probably, there's a bunch of other stuff that's interactive. My favorite thing probably is the Vibeathon. There'll be hundreds of Vibe coders using AI to build software applications in the VIP room one night. I think the second night of the event, we're taking over the VIP room and we're trying to build, I don't want to say how many, a lot. We're trying to build hundreds of software programs in one night with, I know me, you, Russell, a number of other Vibe coders, Yvonne, going around and circulating in the room, helping each other build software applications. And then we're bringing in marketers and investors into that room who want to meet with these software developers. And being a software developer anymore, it ain't that hard, right? It ain't that hard. So I think it's going to be pretty fantastic. I think you're really going to see people make deals, make partnerships. A lot of these speakers, by the way, they're not teachers and they're not used to people being around and asking them questions, and they're not bombarded with business opportunities. So there may be, opportunities for you to work with some of these big players and likely get any major problem in your business solved, via some sort of a deal or arrangement, or maybe it's one piece of advice. And as you and I know, man, the money's made at the bar. It's always the money's made at the bar.
Always the connections, always that one spark conversation that lights the whole
Yeah.
thing on, like that lights the whole things up. A lot of the ideas that we've had have been literally bar napkins or just literally
Oh
like
man.
shooting the breeze and like, hey, I bet we can make that. Like,
Well, when
so
I was in
great conversation.
business with Ryan Dice for years, and he wrote the story of the $1 million napkin because he basically designed his whole business on a napkin at the Anatole Hotel in Dallas, Texas. And he and I worked together for 13 years or 14 years, I guess. And I can't tell you how many whiteboarded conversations or bar napkin conversations that turned into multi-million dollar offers, multi-million dollar business models that worked for us. And then we taught tens of thousands of other people that worked for them. I invented the tripwire on a whiteboard setting in an office in Austin, Texas with Ryan. And we wrote the Del Mar plan, which was, I would come up with a lot of stuff and then Ryan would help to really perfect it. I mean, he was really, we worked really well together because I'm creative, but sloppy. And Ryan was always the person who could button it up and make it tighter. And then when Roland came into that partnership, Roland was always the person who could then turn the knob to elevate it to the next level. Really a good vibe. And I miss those guys. And they're doing well. They're doing really well. And hopefully some of them will be out because I know Roland's in San Diego and I know they're very busy as well. So hopefully they'll be out to visit with us and kind of do some old shake and howdy stuff. So yeah, it's a fun event. I think it's going to be unlike any event you've been to because I know what you have planned is in and of itself just stupid.
Yeah, so
So
just kinda giving everybody a sneak peek because we really do want you to go. Like I said, look, this is I don't go to a lot of events. Barry's like, I like working behind the scenes. I love educating and coaching and teaching. That's kinda like where my home is, right? But I do love creating and I love listening. There's a lot of people want so let's just kinda recap what's going on here. Then I'm gonna give you guys a little suggestion. So anybody that's ever attended, whether it's like the live speech that I do or anything else, you're walking away with tons. Actually, in a lot of groups, they call me Santa Claus Uno because when I come in, I come with a bunch of goodies and everybody's walking out with something. I mean, literally, ask Ignite, ask anybody. They even put like jokingly every time my show is up, he's like, "What does Santa Nuno bring us today?" That's literally been like the theme of everything. So you know that I'm going to bring it as far as like I'm going to try to make this so exclusive that only the people that are attending that one are going to get the bot that literally helps me on a day-to-day basis. The one that literally I was telling Perry about it today. I had a gym session this morning. I went to the gym. In the gym session, I had a 5-minute break. In 5 minutes, I have a bot that I communicate with on a daily basis. We call her Donna. Everybody's going to get access to Donna at this event. This is my Donna. This is the person that I've been developing. What it does is I literally send a message to my team, all in voice, that ended up being this jargon of like me just having a bunch of ideas and things that I forgot and needed. It bullet pointed it, cleaned it all up, and put it in a Slack channel. Then I said, "Hey, I got an app idea. I think we should make this app." Then it was like, "Hey, we should also do a funnel for this and give me some preliminary designs." And, "Oh, hey, I need images for my next social post." I literally did this in a 5-minute conversation, had Donna, my operations person, who's my AI, figure this all out and send this all out to my team. And this is why I can manage 4 businesses. This is what you guys are getting hands down free on stage. This is going to be something not only am I going to show you how to do it, but you guys are going to get it. That's number 1. Gift number 2 is incredibly hush hush. Incredibly. Actually, Perry and like 2 other individuals know about it. We've been prototyping it. We've already done it with 100 people. All goal is that you are going to walk away with a massive asset in this event. This is going to be the event that's going to be the event that we break records in. And if you're not there, you're not going to see it. You're not going to experience, and you're not going to get the asset that we're going to give you that I guarantee you is going to definitely change your game and it's going to be personalized to you.
we purposely did not live stream this event.
And that's the other thing. No
So
live
if you're
streaming.
not there, you ain't going to get it, right? That's the deal. If you're not there, you're not going to get it. You're not going to meet these people and make these connections. I didn't want it to be live streamed because the value on the stage, even though the lineup's amazing, is probably 20% of the value of being at the event.
Absolutely right. And on top of it, Perry just mentioned it. You got a night of vibe coding with myself and 3 other individuals that I know are just experts like me or even better. We're going to be pumping out apps like that you want to develop, and you're going to have firsthand support, us walk in the room, giving you a little bit of education before you start. On top of that, VIP room for anybody that gets VIP. Again, it's not much more. Barry's 100% right about that. Where you're going to get an hour with whoever's speaking on stage, and you just heard some of this lineup. To get an hour with those people alone will cost you thousands. You're going to get it in there, group setting or not. It's going to be amazing in that space. Then on top of it, just the network connections. Now, like I said, I met Perry through a network. I met Perry through an introduction. I met Perry because people knew who I was. And again, threw my name into the hat of whoever was doing the GoHighLevel at the best at that point in time, right? And that's how my business has grown. Since then, exploded. You guys are seeing my YouTube channel. You've seen the amount of business. You see that I just bought property. And this isn't me like showcasing because that's not my style, but you guys see the success because I want you guys to see like one, it's not easy, and two, that this is what you have to do to get there. So for anybody that's watching, make sure that you're heading over to this event because this is going to be something that might change your life. All it takes is one connection, one event, one idea, and this might be the event to do it. I always say that when people are like, well, should I go to an event? Yes, go to every event that you possibly can. If you have enough financial means to do so, and you can freaking get there. And like you said, whether you're sleeping in the car, in the hotel, I've done it. I've done it all. I was literally slept in the car because I forgot to book the hotel room just to attend an event. I didn't go back home. There was no flights. I just made it happen. And I did. I literally rented a car so I can sleep in it. Funniest story ever. Don't make me like I'm gonna relive that moment. But I'm trying to tell you that it's moments like this that really bring out like what you need to do. And I think this is going to be the event. It's the first one ever. Perry, if you didn't know, also did 3 AI bot summits, sold out completely. One of the best AI summits. People are still talking about it to this day, about how much value they got out of it. And it was 3 altogether, right? And they all sold out.
I think the last one was 4. I think we've done 4 of them because we did 2 the first year because we did 1 6 months apart. Yeah, I think the last AI Bot Summit was AI Bot Summit 4. And then prior to that, we did, of course, Traffic and Conversion Summit for 13 years that did, the last one of those we did, it was 8,000 people at the same hotel, by the way, same location that we're doing growth hacking, but growth hacking is a completely different event. It's not a marketing event. It's actually a growth hacking event. It's all about growth and the implementation of new technology with mindfulness, on top of it. So I think it's hard to describe what it is, right?
Well, I think it's going to be like the first of its kind. And I think you're going to walk
Yep.
away with some kind of crazy assets as you're building it on. The events that I'm only attending is exactly that. And I can guarantee you, like, again, all it takes is that one conversation, that one idea. And you need sometimes a spark. Look, I mean, being an entrepreneur, one, is lonely as hell. And two, like, you just get overwhelmed with the amount of possibilities. And sometimes you get stuck because you're like, oh man, why can't I just get to that next little level? And then all you got to do is listen to one conversation, have one of those bar talk like discussions, or even just in that networking space. And there you go. And I honestly believe that this is going to be a pretty powerful one. I know for a fact I'm going to be there. I already told you what I'm bringing. And I can guarantee you my biggest surprise is even going to be something completely unexpected. And we're going to be giving it away for free. We're going to do it in a mass and it's going to be game changing. Like I said, we've already done with 100. My goal is to do it with 1,000 and hopefully even more as we go through. We might even have to do a second round if the first round goes right. So make sure you're 10. Any kind of last words, Perry, of like, what else just do people like look out for? Or is there anything that, you think that Growth Hacking Live will really bring to the table for people that do attend?
I think there's going to be a lot of social, right? There's a whole lot of parties and stuff that have nothing to do with us, that they're people just building around the event. There's going to be a lot of meetings, a lot of add-ons. The whole downtown of San Diego is going to be popping with this thing. So I think it's the place to be. The one thing that I would say, we did TNC for 13 years. The last 4 years of TNC, we sold that event to Blackstone. So we sold it 4 years ago to Blackstone Clarion for a lot of money. We got a lot of money for it. So they can do, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want to with it. But in 4 years, they really changed the face of it. They raised the prices. They ran off a lot of the market. And eventually they decided not to do that event anymore. And the thing that people were very sad, because it was a home for a lot of people. It created a home because we're misfits, we're weirdos, right? But it created a home for a lot of us. And I want to create a new home. I don't want to create that home. I want to create a brand new home. And I can't tell you how many people have come up to me. And when we talked about TNC, everybody has fond memories of TNC and sometimes drunken memories. And, that people have hooked up there and got married out of there and all kinds of stuff.
Oh,
But you know what? People come up to me, the proudest people, man, I was at the very first one. I was there when you only had 320 people in Austin, Texas, and it was great. I was back every year. I never missed one. If I missed anything all year long, I never missed that event. So I'm hoping that you guys that come to this one are gonna be like, I was at the very first one. Because I think next year, we've got a plan to be much, much, much bigger. But it does lose a bit of its personality. If you're part of the alum, so to speak, and you come back the next year and the next year and the next year, it's kind of like being an upperclassman, as you get to fuck with the freshmen, when they come the first
oh,
year.
it's your first one?
So if you're an OG, I think you're going to have an especially good time. And I'll be walking around, as will Qasim and Nuno and all this. One of my big jobs is to try to introduce people to other people that might help them. I like to be that connector, and there's a number of other connectors like that. So, hey, you know what? What else are you going to do with that time? As I've gotten a little older, I wake up every morning, I have this little note that pops on my computer, and It says you have this many more days left on Earth. What are you gonna what are you gonna what are you gonna trade this one for?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that note, Perry.
What are you going to trade this one for? Because, algorithmically, we all have so many more days, right? But what are you trading that day for? I find if I invest most of my days, I get a return. And I think this is a super powerful investment of your time. The money is not a question. We've made it so inexpensive, it's stupid, right? So the money is not an issue. I wanted to make this first year accessible to just about everybody. So it's monetarily, it's dirt cheap. It's a matter of you investing a couple days of your life. But I think you'll leave inspired. I think you'll leave with a lot of new friends. You'll leave with tools, not just tactics. I think this one's going to be very different in that there are going to be a lot of tools distributed. People are going to be leaving with things, not just the ideas of how to do something, but the tools to do it with. You can tell somebody how to build a house, but if they don't have a hammer and a saw, they're going to have a hard time. So I think a lot of people leave with the tools. And if they don't have the tools, guess what? We're going to show them how to build the damn tools. So it'll be super cool to see who takes something from a talk and then on vibe coding night actually builds a tool for that.
That'll be so exciting. That will fill my heart like you have no idea.
And those people that build those tools, if they're cool, we're going to pull them up on stage. And if they want to share them, and they're going to share them with everybody. So you might leave there with 50, 60 pieces of software. I don't know. You can leave with tactics, tools, relationships. I don't know what more you want. Or you can stay home and stare at the fucking wall. Those are your options. It's like, hey, you know what I said one time? It's like my daddy always said, the world needs ditch diggers too, son. You just do, you choose what you want,
I might have to steal that to tell my son. I don't know about
the world needs ditch diggers too. So anyway, Nuno, thank you so much.
No, man, thank you. And again, for anybody that doesn't know Perry, I'll Google him. I always say,
and we do AI Morning Club in the morning. It's absolutely free. If anybody wants to get in our world, they can go to AImorningclub.com. And at 8 o'clock every morning, we start off the morning with some AI news and a little live thing. And Nuno, hopefully get Nuno on there pretty soon. I don't think you've been on there yet, have you?
no, not yet, not yet. I actually handled that later on vibe coding session, but I
Yeah,
will.
that's too early in the morning for you. We only do 30 minutes. We
Yeah,
even
I
got
think
a
I'm gonna have to head
jingle
up.
and a
I know
song.
Angie's been inviting me to it, so I definitely gotta
Yeah,
make some momentum there.
we got to get you on there. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool way to start the day. But man, love you to death. Thank you so much for having
No,
me.
thank you. And
Really
again,
do.
everybody,
Really appreciate
all the
it.
links will be on here. We're actually going to include also that AI morning, just in case you guys want to attend, because I think it's going to be a great intro to this world. And on top of it, going to go in there. And also know that I am going to be running a contest inside our school community and also on the channel that if you comment on this and you just comment with GHL Growth Hacking Live, don't do GHL, actually do Growth Hacking Live.
Yeah,
If you
I
comment
got to
with
watch
that,
out on that one.
we'll enter you to win an actual free ticket. So it's on me, a free ticket, and we'll
Oh,
make sure you can get there. The only thing you got to do is cover your flight, and that's it. So Perry, thanks again, man. I know it's late at night there. Again, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you here, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Thank you, everybody.
my absolute pleasure. Thank you.